What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Sunshine Cup doing what I do best, which is running a triple dragon team and gaining 230 elo in just one day with Turtonator, Shadow Flygon and Drampa. Now quite often in these limited typing metas, the few dragon type Pokemon available have quite a lot of play into most things, often resisting a few of the eligible typings and having great neutral play into most other Pokemon, and this cup is certainly no different. Now it is worth noting that the Turtonator doesn't really have neutral play into a lot of Pokemon just because that part fire typing, there are a ton of ground type Pokemon in the meta, so actually I end up losing the vast majority of leads with this team, yet I was still able to turn things around. So this isn't the kind of team that is just going to crumble as soon as you start seeing tough leads. It has play in most situations. Now before we get into the question of the day, I did a live stream yesterday battling against my subscribers and ran a little competition to see if anyone could outspice me during each battle. Now after each battle, viewers would vote for whether they thought my team was spicier or whether they thought the subscriber brought the spicier team, and I mentioned I'd give a shout out to everyone that managed to outspice me according to the votes, so here are those shout outs. So shout out to Marcy454, Walter Innovin, JXVNEAZJSK, not sure if I'm supposed to pronounce that with like maybe some of the consonants being like vowels, I don't know, but anyways, we got Game DJ 487, PL90, Tangy Platypus, Rakanen, JS238899, Benjamin and Gold, Pro Gunslinger, Juan Martin Galpo, Henrik and Naveen Joseph. Shout out to all of you guys. You guys brought your A game, you brought the spice and made it a very enjoyable stream. Also, let me know if you'd like to see me do something similar again soon. From my perspective, and you do have to remember this is my job, but the viewer battles very rarely see any donations compared to when I live stream GBL sets, so from a financial perspective I don't really gain anything from this type of stream, but what I hopefully does do is bring this community closer together, which is obviously something that is really important to me. So yeah, I can't guarantee it will be a regular thing, but it'd be good to gauge the interest for the future. I'm kind of seeing that this meta is going to get stale very quickly, so maybe it is something that I do next week, maybe on the Monday or the Tuesday, but let me know if you would actually like to see that. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which off-meta Pokemon that received a buff this season would you like to see me showcase in tomorrow's video? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Turtonator into Shadow Flygon. Now, I'm actually going to stay in, throw one Incinerate, and what this is going to do is force the opponent, if they stay in, to throw on alignment, so I get a full Dragon Tail in for free. The opponent is now forced to swap out. They're going to come in with Shadow Credit, but we've got a huge energy advantage. I'm not baiting, I full send the Scorching Sands, it grabs a shield and it drops their attack in the process. At this point, just gonna let the Flygon go down. They actually fire off a Rock Slide there, which is very surprising. Obviously, Shadow Credilli and just Credilli users in general love to go for that Rock Tomb, so having Rock Slide, they can't even go for the debuff, which almost feels wrong for Credilli users. Like, what on earth are you even going to do there if you can't debuff me? But anyways, we're going to swap out. The opponent tries to snipe with the Flygon. We can come in and get that Dragon Breath farm down. Drampa, Dragon Breath farms down the Credilli as well, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Skeledirge. Now, if they have Torch Song and Shadow Ball, this is a super comfortable matchup for us, as of course they're both going to be resisted here. Torch Song not going to get the KO from this range, and Shadow Ball is double resisted, so they go for the Torch Song. They boost up their attack, but Drampa able to reach a second Fly. Fly easily gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. You can see Turtonator into Macargo. So this is a little bit awkward for me. I'm actually going to stay in just because my Drampa, even though of course I am going to resist the fire damage, doesn't have that much play because both charge moves are resisted. So now that I've landed a Dragon Pulse, Turtonator actually tanks a Rock Tomb relatively comfortably there. Now we're going to come in with the Shadow Flygon, and the opponent going to bank a Rock Tomb, but again swapping into Credilli. Now half the Credilli in this meta seems to be on Bullet Seed, and then half of them seem to be on Acid, so you do have to be wary of that. Either way, again, we go for Scorching Sands. They actually bait with the Rock Tomb here, so they are on Rock Tomb, so of course they can't help it. They have to go for the bait. We're now going to full send a second Scorching Sands, grabbing both shields from the opponent. I don't know if I dropped their attack on the first one. I think I might have done. But either way, Rock Tomb gets the KO. We can come in with the Drampa, and Drampa will be able to commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down. So the opponent forced to swap out of there. They're going to come in with a Whiscash. We've got a 2-shield advantage, and this game is absolutely over here, of course. Mud Bomb will not get the KO, but there's no point in not shielding at this point. We're now going to overfarm throw just before they reach the next Mud Bomb there. Swift from this range takes out the Whiscash. They come back in with Credilli just to be farmed down. They come in with the Macargo. For some reason, they do throw a last-second charge move. It really does not matter. I'm going to shield one Dragon Breath, takes out Macargo, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to open there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Swampert in the lead. So, we're going to be say swapping into our Shadow Flygon. And I did actually say swap into Flygon for the majority of the battles, just because I started at quite a low elo. So, it's actually the 3-turn fast move just kind of threw a lot of opponents off in terms of timing their charge moves when I swapped out there. Whereas if we swap into Drampo, they can throw a move at basically any point, and it's not going to be very costly as they just let through a single Dragon Breath. Now at this point, I'm actually going to no-shield this. The opponent is actually going to full send the Grass Knot. That is a surprise, but it doesn't really matter. I can come in with the Drampo from this range, commit to the full Dragon Breath farm down. They're not going to reach a charge move here, and the opponent's going to come in with a Gligar. So at this point, I tried to swap out after 9 turns there. I ended up swapping after 10, so I don't get the Incinerate through, which is what I was aiming for there, which means the opponent can outpace me to the charge move, but they're in range where I can just Dragon Breath farm them down with the Dramper, and I believe it's a non-Shadow Gligar in the back, so I'm actually just going to go for 3 Swifts here. First one grabs the final shield, then knock me out to Fury Cutter, farm me down, or reach back-to-back charge moves, so we farm to back-to-back Swifts. First one does respectable damage, and a second Swift will, of course, be enough to take out the Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Turtonator into Shadow Swampert. So, Turtonator just can't buy a good lead at the moment. We're going to say swap into Flygon, and we're met with a Ferrothorn. So, I should live a Power Whip from this range. However, I'm going to shield the first one anyways. And honestly, I'm probably hoping that they shield here. I'd rather they shield, but we go for Scorching Sands. They don't shield, and it doesn't get the KO there. And at this point, such a low health Ferrothorn doesn't really help me because I don't get much farm on the Turtonator. So I actually use both my shields, which probably is a mistake here, but let's see what we can do. We fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw grabs the shield from the opponent, and we'll reach a second Dragon Claw here. Dragon Claw probably going to be no shield at this point, as Credilli, pretty bulky, can tank that relatively comfortably. At this point, of course, Flygon going to go down to the Grass Knot there. We come in with the Dramper, and Dramper not going to be able to fully Dragon Breath farm them down there. Maybe if I committed, I could have got it, but the opponent fires off the Rock Tomb, and unfortunately the opponent can just commit to a full Mudshot farm down. I am debuffed here. Dragon Pulse grabs the shield anyways. They commit to the farm down. I believe they leave with very close to back-to-back charge moves here. The opponent fires off the first one. It's a Hydro Cannon, but it doesn't matter. 2 Hydro Cannons comfortably take out Dramper, as it's not a very bulky Pokemon, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle. We can see a Miltank in the lead, so a relatively neutral-ish matchup here. Of course, they're hitting for super effective damage with the fast moves. However, like worst case scenario, they go for Body Slams here. The opponent is going to go for an Ice Beam, so that does do more damage, but that's okay. We can tank it fairly comfortably, as we are obviously part Fire, part Dragon. We take neutral damage. Overheat gets the one-shot. I swap straight away into Flygon, but I'm met with an Abomasnow. So here, I do actually overfarm. Not really sure why I did that. I could have just gone for a Dragon Claw straight away. Probably would have grabbed a shield from the opponent as well. But either way, I grab a shield from the opponent, and the opponent can just fully farm me down. Now, Turtonator, I believe, is actually just 1 away from a Dragon Pulse, so if this Incinerate does not get the KO, I'm going to come in with my Dramper here, go for the Dragon Breath Snipe. We get that Snipe, and the opponent will not be able to take me out with a single charge move if they're not on Earthquake. The opponent throws fairly early. It's just a Sludge, and at this point, it's going to be game over. I can fire off the Swift. The opponent needs to farm up 2 back-to-back charge moves, but in doing so, I should probably reach a Swift by that point, so the opponent not able to do that, and as a result, we've got the Overheat loaded. Dragon Pulse would get the KO, but we can go for the BM anyways. Overheat takes out the Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Turtonator into Talonflame. So, finally, a somewhat positive matchup for me. However, Brave Bird's still going to do big damage. The opponent is going to bank some energy swapping into Shadow Swampert. And again, we're going to come in with our Flygon here. The opponent fires off that Hydro Cannon. I'm going to go for 3 Dragon Tails and then fire off the Dragon Claw, throwing on good timing. And Dragon Claw is going to grab a shield back from the opponent. So at this point, I'm happy to double shield my Flygon, as I realize I will reach a Dragon Claw up against the Talonflame coming back in. in. So that's absolutely fine with me. They're going to come back in with that Talonflame. We go for one Dragon Tail, fire off the Dragon Claw, and the opponent is going to overfarm. So that allows me to swap and catch a double resisted Flame Charge onto my Turtonator, which is absolutely lovely. We're now going to go for a Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse grabs the final shield. And at this point, they do have to go for a Fly or a Brave Bird. Fly does not get the KO there. But likewise, we do not Incinerate farm them down either. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Dramper. One Dragon Breath gets the job done. And actually having that one Dragon Breath edge advantage allows me to reach a Fly on the CMP tie here with the Rock Tomb. And Fly does big damage. That's going to be game over here. If this does not get the KO, I will swap out straight away. But actually, Rock Tomb takes us out. We can come in with that Flygon. And of course, Dragon Tail able to farm them down. And I'm able to take that game. Into the next battle, going to see Quagsire in the lead. So once again, not a very good lead here. We've seen a couple of neutral matchups, but mostly really bad matchups. And the opponent's going to come in with one of the worst things we can see here, a Shadow Piloswine. And the reason why this is so bad is because they're going to have coverage for my Turtonator as well. So they get a huge farm down. They do need to use a shield, but they can grab both shields here if they want to. And it depends. The opponent is going to bait with the Icicle Spear, which means this will be enough energy now for a potential high horsepower. But at this point, I'm just going to save my shield for the Tramper. I realize Turtonator not going to be that great into the Quagsire, and their final Pokemon is a Chestnut. So honestly, I've not got much hope here. I'm going to shield. They do go for the superpower there. They're going to swap back into their Water Gun Quagsire, which is definitely an interesting choice. Maybe it just makes it a bit more consistent up against Pokemon like Talonflame, for example. But either way, I need this Swift to basically put them into farm down range and then come out with back-to-back charge moves for the whatever was in the back. I can't even remember. Chestnuts, but unfortunately, we don't even get the farm down. They can Water Gun, farm me down, and I do lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there into the next battle, and yet another bad lead. And once again, met with an Ice type. I will be honest, I didn't see too many people come in to my Shadow Flygon with an Ice type Pokemon, which is why I was safe swapping it. Although after this battle, I think those two battles were in a row, I might have thought maybe I'll swap into Dramper. But either way, at this point, we can take these charge moves here, unless they go for an Outrage, which would be outrageous, pardon the pun, but they are not going to do so. So at this point, gonna no shield both charge moves here, and the opponent, I thought maybe they'd only thrown 2 mud shots before swapping out, but nope, they've thrown at least 3 there, as they do outpace me to the Aqua Tail. But that's fine. I'm gonna use my shield here, fire off the Dragon Pulse. They catch it onto Furret, but actually that is fine with me. I can now just commit to a full farm down. I'm going to shield up the charge move here. The opponent fires off a Trailblaze, which is very smart, realizing they're actually not going to reach back-to-back Swift, so might as well boost up their attack there. And this has put me in an awkward situation. I'm going to go for a Swift bait here. Fly is going to do more damage. I go to throw on CMP. The opponent does not throw straight away, so they get the extra Mud Shot through. However, they're in range where a single Incinerate will get the KO. So if they don't have back-to-back charge moves here, or one away, Incinerate gets that farm down, and I'm able to take that game. I think potentially if they got damage registration error there, I think they were 2 away from an Aqua Tail. But either way, GG's to that trainer into next battle. And what a surprise, another Mud Boy. So Turtonator having a very rough time here, but we are going to come in with the Dramper this time around. And remember, I did say that was because Shadow Flygon had just been met with 2 Ice types in the counter swap. But anyways, gonna fire off the Swift here. We are 1 away, but the opponent does outpace us to the Scorching Sands there, but we just barely hang on, and we do reach a last second fly. Swift, what the hell? I'm getting all these charge moves wrong right now. What the heck's going on? We're going to come in with the Turtonator. I realize, of course, it's going to be fairly useless up against the Swampert, and I can tank a super effective Scorching Sands here, so I'm now going to swap into Shadow Flygon. The opponent will not be reaching another Scorching Sands. This is just going to be a resisted Fire Punch. They then come in with a Pidgeot. I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw here. However, Dragon Claw, unfortunately, whilst it does decent damage, it doesn't quite put them into farm down range. It's actually a simultaneous KO. And at this point, the opponent can very comfortably just Mud Shot, farm me down. Turtonator not able to store back-to-back charge moves, and as a result, we do lose that game. But GG's to that trainer. Finally, into the next battle. A good lead matchup for me, but they're going to say swap into Shadow Swampert. I don't have a great response. I come in with the Flygon just because I realize, of course, it's going to be useless up against the Mamoswine. However, what I kind of forget is that if I do take out the Swampert here, I mean, they're just going to be able to Powder Snow farm me down, and I kind of do need to fight for switch advantage. So at this point, we're in a really awkward position. We do get that Dragon Tail farm down. They're going to come back in with the Mamoswine. Those Powder Snows absolutely chunking the Shadow Flygon. I'm going to swap there, but I did not expect the opponent to no-shield that, and unfortunately, they come in with a Flygon. They can just shield once, commit to a full Dragon Tail farm down, and there's just not much I can do here. So at this point, I'm going to come in with my Flygon, basically just force them to try and farm me down here, in which case the opponent tries to go for one extra fast move there, and as a result, Tramper able to Dragon Breath, farm down the rest of the team, and take that game. I know the opponent must have been raging after that battle. That would have been so frustrating, but GG's to that trainer. Into the next battle, once again, seeing a Shadow Flygon. This time, they're actually not going to stay in and fire off a charge move, instead swapping into Swampert, and once again, Flygon can just two-shield its way through this matchup if we really want to, but we can also farm up to back-to-back Dragon Claws as we do have a slight energy advantage, and we've got the first shield here. Do they want to double shield their Swampert? Let's see. The opponent is going to let that go through. They can come back in with their own Flygon if they want to, but they do throw here. They don't want to get too low with that Shadow Flygon. So this point, we can come in with the Tramper, go for the Dragon Breath farm down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Furret. So at this point, I'm going to swap one turn before they reach the Swift, and as a result, we get the full Incinerate in as we swap out there, which is amazing for me. We can now fire off the Dragon Pulse here. It doesn't really matter that I'm baiting, as the opponent no shields. We put them into one Incinerate farm down range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Turtonator into a Shadow Gligar. So, not the worst thing ever, but still not a positive matchup for the Turtonator. I am at least resisting the Fury Cutter damage, so that is a positive, which is the reason why I'm staying in, at least initially here. I'm actually going to farm up to 100 energy, fire off the Dragon Pulse, and then eventually I will swap out. Now, Dragon Pulse is going to grab a shield back from the opponent. At this point, I probably should have just no-shielded here. The fact they throw straight away kind of led me to believe that it would be a bait, but the opponent does not reach another charge move. They're now going to come in with Credilli, and they are on acid, so I can reach back-to-back Dragon Claws here, so I'm going to go for the first one. I did also realize that every time I went for Scorching Sands up against Credilli, I'm pretty sure they would shield, and every time I went for Dragon Claw, they would no shield. However, I did reach back-to-back, so that was the safe play there. At this point, the opponent does go for the Grass Knot to get the KO as all shields are down. I won't be able to commit to a full farm down here on the Dramper, so instead we actually come in with the Turtonator, recognizing I was just one away from the Dragon Pulse, and then final Pokemon, gonna be a Talonflame, and this is actually a little bit tricky for me. I'm not sure if I threw on the best timing here. I think maybe I could have thrown one more Dragon Breath before firing off the Swift there, and that might end up costing me, as you're gonna see. Fly gets the KO, one Incinerate, puts them at 1 HP and a dream. If I did throw one single more Dragon Breath there, I would have won that game, but unfortunately I didn't. So GG's to that trainer there. Very close end game. Into next battle, going to see a Shadow Ursaring. So neutral matchup here. If the opponent does full send a close combat, which I'm not really expecting, it might one-shot us. And they actually full send it, but we hang on just barely. So actually bank the energy there. Going to swap into my Shadow Flygon. The opponent does farm up to a potential payback, and they full send it as well. So I don't know if maybe they're on payback and wild charge, or if they just thought I probably wouldn't shield that first move. But either way, Dragon Claw gonna get the KO as a farm up to back charge moves. They're gonna come in with a Shadow Alolan Raticate. So unfortunately, if they do throw straight away, I'm barely not gonna reach another Dragon Claw, but I think I should just let the Flygon go down here. Crunch gets the KO. Of course, Ursaring has double resisted Shadow Claw damage for my Dramper, and they actually swap back into it just to be farmed down, and as a result, that's gonna be GG's, as the opponent just concedes the match. So going into the next battle, another Shadow Flygon in the lead. So once again, going for one Incinerate, then swapping into our own Flygon. And this puts me ahead in the fast move damage race. And as well, once again, because we swap out after one Incinerate, we get a full Dragon Tail through there for free as the opponent throws the charge move. Now they come in with a Bullet Seed Credilli here. The opponent might go for a full Bullet Seed farm down here, and they are going to do so. But we can go for a Scorching Sands, debuff their attack, and then fire off a Dragon Claw as well. So at this point, since they're debuffed here, we can come in with our Dramper. I should be able to tank one Rock Tomb relatively comfortably here. And we can see Rock Tomb does under 50% of her HP, but I don't really want to tank the next one here, so I will shield this, and the opponent is going to stay in with Credilli. I think I'm forced to go for Fly here. Swift obviously is resisted, and we're double debuffed, so Fly gets the KO. Their final Pokemon is going to be Dunsparce, and I thought I needed to clear the debuff to my attack there, but what I should have done is farm up to the Swift, then swap into Turtonator, recognizing we would just barely live a move, but because they can roll up, farm me down, and I don't have a charge move loaded, unfortunately, I will be losing this matchup as the opponent reaches the last second Rock Slide. Rock Slide takes out the Drampa, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into the next battle. You can see Bibarel in the lead. So I'm going to stay in initially, then swapping into my Shadow Flygon. And I'm actually going to shield here as the opponent does fire off the Surf. The opponent's then going to swap into Gastrodon. So far, Turtonator not really having any play into this opponent's team. But maybe they do have something weak to fire in the back. But anyways, we're going to go for back-to-back Dragon Claws here. Second one should be grabbing a shield from the opponent. And we also throw on CMP. The opponent full sends the Earth Power there, which is absolutely fine with me. Now we can come in with the Drampa, commit to that Dragon Breath farm down, possibly taking only 2 Mud Slaps worth of damage. And let's see, the opponent's going to come back in with Bibarel, and that is absolutely fine with me. I'm going to fire off the Swift here. The opponent will need one more rollout to reach a potential Hyper Fang. So at this point, I'm going to shield this, commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down, and the opponent is not going to allow the full farm down there. They come in with Macargo. I farm up to back-to-back Swifts. I'm going to save one of those for the Bibarel in the end game. I remember I can live a charge move on my Turtonator unless they have Stone Edge, which would do a lot of damage. But Rock Tomb doesn't do enough there. I'm going to look to throw on CMP. The opponent actually goes for the extra Incinerate there. Doesn't really matter. Dragon Pulse gets the KO, and actually one debuffed Incinerate takes out Bibarel anyways, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, the final battle, I do believe, and again, leading into a Macargo. So, once again, I'm actually going to stay in this matchup here and go straight for a Dragon Pulse, recognizing I can live a Rock Tomb, and so far, all of the Macargo I've seen in the lead have not had an Ice type in the back. Possibly that is going to be something that you might see later on down the line, but either way, at the moment, it has not been the case, and as well, this is just going to be a resisted charge move, just another Rock Tomb there, which we can tank, not super comfortably, but we can tank, and as well, I recognize, going to be 3 Incinerates to the next charge move. I can actually go for Dragon Claw here, and then commit to the full Dragon Tail farm down. Now the opponent actually snipes me with their Shadow Flygon, so getting a bit of a taste of my own medicine, but let's see if we can still play into this battle. We're going to come in with a Drampa, and of course I'm going to shield this. I would very much like to see Dragon Breath farm them down here before we take another Dragon Tail, but that is not the case, and their final Pokemon is going to be Credilli, but they are on Bullet Seed, and remember, Turtonator is going to double resist the Bullet Seed damage, but they will be outpacing me to the charge moves, and as well, they're going to debuff my attack, so we're going to shield up the Rock Tomb here, go for 1 Incinerate, fire off that Dragon Pulse straight away, throwing on good timing. Dragon Pulse grabs the final shield here, and the opponent is going to throw straight away. Not even taking 1 more Incinerate's worth of damage, but Rock Tomb gets the KO. Drampa coming back in, and Drampa actually gets the full Dragon Breath farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.